everyone, my name is Angelina Scriptor, and before this video begins, I just wanted to quickly let you know that this video is a part 2. Yesterday, I posted the part 1 where I remade my first ever video on the channel, which was a Q&A. Today, I'm going to be answering all of the other questions that I didn't get to as the video stretched a little bit longer than I expected, both of them combined because of all of the wonderful questions that you asked me. So if you have not seen that yet, be sure to watch that first. It will be linked in the description below. All the questions will be added as chapters to each video, so if you're looking for a specific question to be answered, be sure to check there. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and I truly hope you enjoy. I'm back! Since you last saw me, I have been hard at work on my poetry book, Broken Mirrors, which will hopefully be releasing really soon. I've also made a few shorts and a video, one explaining the writer's process and where I'm kind of at with that. It was a writing piece that I did, very sentimental to me, which I turned into a bit of a video project, and I hope all of you enjoyed it. It is on my channel if you haven't seen it yet. It's featured on my homepage. And like I said, it's a project that means a lot to me. It explains how I've been feeling about writing and a lot of things like that. And I think a lot of people might have the chance to relate to it. I have a bunch more questions to answer, so let's do it. From Instagram, what is the typical or average price someone should expect to pay for line edits? I have to research this a little bit. Off the cusp, I can tell you, editing can be expensive. That is why I took the time to learn how to do it myself. It's a process. It's definitely worth it. I don't need Google. Let me start rambling. Crash course in editing. 1. There's multiple types of editing and editors, and you will need all of them. There is grammatical editing. Those are the words. There are developmental editors, line editors, copy editors, and proofreaders. When are you going to need each type? I know I'm cheating, but a quick Google. Developmental editing is for the big stuff, basically making sure everything overall flows the way it should and everything's put in place as it should be, and it's creating a coherent story. Line editing is about the question that was asked. That is about sentence and paragraph level flow, style, word choice, tone, and the sound of the prose, according to. Copy editing is about mechanics, grammar, all of that kind of stuff. And proofreading is just doing all the final checks to make sure everything overall is in place. That's for things like basic typos and making sure your formatting's in order, but I include formatting as a totally separate thing from editing because in my mind, that helps me break down the writing process into steps, and it's also just an entire another ballgame to face on its own. Each type of editor comes with their own set of costs, and to my knowledge, most editors actually pay not by the overall page count, but by your word count. So the average story might be around, we'll say 80,000 words, and you're going to be paying for those 80,000 words, usually however many cents per word, which as you can guess, quickly compounds. Now this is of course going to depend on the person, but if you do look up the average rates, and I know you're looking for my answer, so I apologize for this, but if you're looking at 4 to 9 cents per word, that translates to around roughly $40 to $75 per hour, and you're quickly looking at a couple $1,000s for line editing. That's also not including the other types of editing. My advice as someone who took up editing would obviously be, what are your skills? Are you very good at catching grammar? And then of course you're going to need a second set of eyes to make sure you're not missing the obvious things because you've been looking at it for so long. So that's where something like beta readers could come in. Someone that you know or people that are interested in reading who would be willing to read the story for free for the exchange of getting a copy in advance. Or maybe you're really bad at grammar, but you're very good at keeping a timeline and being able to track maybe the historical data or different complexities of the story. For example, I'll have my purple book, and in that I'll be taking notes. For example, this character has this height, this hair color, this eye color, make sure that stays consistent throughout the story. Or this event happens on this day, now this event happens on this day of the week, okay, this happens on this date, and by the end you can create a timeline to be making sure the story's order and flow is making sense. That could help you with developmental editing costs. It's basically the process of mixing and matching what are your skills versus how much is your budget. If it's a small project that's just for you, You might not want to pay for an editor at all, and you might want to have just you or your friends check on it. But if this is something you're wanting to publish, you definitely don't want to sacrifice quality for the cost. Maybe you do want to spend a couple $1,000s to be able to have a very good quality work that looks professional and sounds professional, because bad editing can absolutely interfere with the reader's comprehension of the story. So it can be expensive. It can be a few $1,000s for your average typical novel, but depending on who you are, there are absolutely options to be able to see how you could do that, whether it's knowing other people who are willing to help you with the process or trying to grow your own skills along the way. These questions are all so good, I don't know what to answer next. How easy is it to get your work published as a minor, including a book or a series? Good question. So as you can imagine, there are definitely some legal complications with publication as a minor. I would say mainly to make sure that you're not getting tricked by anyone or taken advantage of. And especially because when you're getting paid for your work, there is financial stuff that goes into that, whether it be with bank accounts or the government and all that stuff. You have to make sure you're filing stuff. So that part is a bit complex. But that's not to say you can't do it. First and foremost, I would say if you're blessed enough to have a good connection with your parents, they can absolutely help you in this process. You'll definitely want to look into this to make sure all the legal work is correct moving forward after you're no longer a minor. But you can, with your parents' consent and help, absolutely get things published. You can also publish things under a separate name, whether that is your parents' name and you're doing the writing. There's ghostwriting options where you can get your name on it, but someone else is doing the writing. But of course, I will give you the advice that I took when I was still a minor. There are always free alternatives to publishing, which are always great for visibility, for getting in touch with the community, and for growing your skill set before you're doing any of the legal stuff. And you can do that through anywhere that you would publish, maybe online or in a newspaper, something local for the community you can write for your school, or things like I used DeviantArt. I know there's Archive of Our Own, and it's basically just anywhere you would post stories, although that's not obviously the traditional option. And you can always try to look out for different agents if you're interested in publishing traditionally. And these agents will handle a lot of the legal work for you. They'll get you in touch with who you need to be in touch with, and they'll help you to make sure that you are protected throughout the process. I would recommend looking into Amazon KDP, that's Kindle Direct Publishing, because they're very great with working with indie authors, and if you just want your book out there. They also do Kindle Vellum, which is great for short stories and short series. There are definitely options if you are a minor and you still want to share your work. It's just about the means of which you want to share them, but there's definitely ways to do it. You just have to be extra careful to make sure that you're setting things up properly for your future and you're being protected along the way. What is your favorite pizza topping? Olives. Black olives on my pizza. My favorite pizza would be cheese, of course, black olives, green bell peppers, mozzarella, wet mozzarella cheese, and basil. That would be a really good pizza. Are you more of a pantser or a plotter? And if you don't know what those are, I'm gonna go ahead and put them up on the screen for you. I'm a pantser at heart who ends up plotting. My best stories are always just blindly going into it and it's writing itself, and that's when I fall in love with them the most. When I'm struggling with writer's block like I am now, I will start plotting and making sure I have a scene by scene playbook of kind of the idea of what I want to happen. But ideally, I will jump into a random story, write it until my heart runs out of fuel, and start taking down the details of that along the way. And that goes right along with this other question, how much planning do you do before writing? And this also kind of goes along with the question, how do you outline your novels? It depends on what I'm writing. Poetry, completely natural, have no idea when it's coming, it just hits me, usually in the middle of the night or while I'm on a walk. Novel ideas, often inspired from dreams. Or if it's things like my medieval fantasy series, it'll be an idea that I randomly had when I was younger that I then go back to and just continue and build as I continue writing it. So within the writing process, I'll do a lot of planning as I see the scenes growing and getting set up. But initially, what gets me writing is just that zap moment where I have a new idea and I just tend to run with it. Which again, ties into one of my favorite questions from this whole Q&A. How do you start? You start with the spark inside of you. If you have any level of passion for writing, jump on it. If you have any small idea that you think to yourself, that could be a book. I want to write about that. I want to know more about that. That's your starting place. You take that, you either grab your notebook and start scrawling out ideas, or you grab your laptop, or you grab a piece of napkin, whatever you have around you, and you write that down. And whatever scenes come next, it doesn't have to be in chronological order. In fact, I'm trying to teach myself this. It shouldn't be in chronological order. If you can, that's great. Go with it, whatever's natural. But the point is, follow your flow. If you get a random idea at 3 a.m. that's like, oh man, what if during the end fight, this happens? Go write it down. Write it while the idea is fresh. That is when you'll write your best scenes. Keep doing that, and when you start running out of ideas, that's when you can kind of go back and start filling in the holes. Like, okay, so I have this scene and I have this scene and I love them both. How do they get from point A to point B? And you start writing it in. And before you know it, there is a whole manuscript in front of you. Once you have that manuscript, you go back, you start rereading it, you start editing, you start sharing that with people. It's such an amazing process, and it's one that I highly encourage you to start. If you're wondering how, just try it. Try grabbing an idea and just writing it down and see if it takes you anywhere. How long does it take you to write a book? Amazing question, again. For me, it totally depends. My poetry books strike me, and I will kind of just collect poetry until it seems like I have enough. That can be a matter of months, that can be a matter of years, and then I will go back and start compiling them, editing them, formatting them, turning it into what you'd call a proper book. That process will probably take me a month or two, depending on how diligently I'm working on it. Novels, though, are another story. When I was writing Trees of Fate, the process took me 1 month. This thing is like 300 plus pages, and I just kept writing it. I fell so in love with the concept and so in love with the characters that I wanted to keep spending time with them. That's really what it feels like when you're falling in love with a story, is you miss them, you want to know what happens next, and you want to keep visiting with them. So you keep working on it. And for me, before you know it, there's 90 pages in a week and a whole story in a month. And it's craziness what can happen. So with Trees of Fate, my milestone was written in a month, published in a year. So the process of writing it was really fun and really fast for me. But the process of editing, formatting, all the way to publication took me a full year from when I started. And I did take some breaks with some discouragement in between. So there were a couple months that I didn't even touch it or open it. But those months were also good for coming back with fresh eyes. I reread the manuscript as many times as I needed to. I physically printed it out so many times just to be able to go through and visibly mark it up with red pen. And even the content itself went through so many different changes. I'll give you a glimpse of what a page of editing might look like. Not to mention adjusting the chapters and everything. I just found a page where I excitedly wrote, "Here we go!" That's what I mean about falling in love with the story. It's a fun process, even through the grueling stuff. So, my dear viewer, how long does it take to write a book? As long as it needs. What is your biggest pet peeve while editing? Not being done. That final draft copy when you're going through and you're like, oh, this is the one, this is fantastic, and there's some mistake just right in front of you. Blatantly obvious, like, how did I miss this? And then you have to go back. If it's one of those mistakes that are like ingrained in the story, like have to adjust the days of the week or the timeline, it's like, oh no, now I have to do math. I remember one while I was working on Trees of Fate. It was like the day I wanted to publish. I ordered what I was hoping to be my last copy, and the back font came out too small. And right on the first chapter, only mistake in the entire book, in only one draft of the book, because there's different formats for different stores, and one letter moved on to the second line. You can tell by my highlighting, I was not happy. But I still was able to publish by Christmas, which was my initial goal, so that was very exciting. And all the editing does make the final product all the more sweet when you're looking through it and you're like, oh, this is beautiful, it's finally good, until you find the mistakes that you actually published. But we're not gonna talk about those. Spoiler alert, I have some. Don't go looking for them unless it's gonna make you read the book. Editing Angelina here. Special shout out as well to when you keep using the same word 5 different times in the same paragraph, because what are words and how do you use them uniquely? And then you have to keep looking up synonyms because apparently you don't know anything either. I'm gonna answer this one fun. How many books have you written? I've officially published 2, Roses and Thorns 100 Poems for Life and my young adult dystopian romance novel, Trees of Fate. I've written many, many, many books. These are all mine. Let this be an encouragement to all you young writers out there who are not yet authors, but very well might be someday, or those of you who just enjoy writing as a fun little pastime or hobby. These are still writings. We have old stories that I did inspired off of things I enjoyed at the time. We have random stories that I never finished. This is a full-on murder mystery. We have a collection of old stories, a novel that I wrote when I was 9, 10, and 11. This is the medieval fantasy novel series draft that one day will be more than just a couple of books that I wrote, and they're gonna be something. Mark my words. I love these books so much. These 2 have such a special place in my heart to this day. I need to write them. Testament to all of you. Write the books on your heart. Does not matter the timeline, doesn't matter where you are, just write them, because then you're gonna end up like me if you don't, where you're just staring at drafts going, well, then again, this is also really impressive to look at on its own. Long story short, I've published 2, but I've written a lot. I love writing, and I used to write a lot more than I do because now I take it so professionally. So lesson to all of you, just write. Write the things on your heart, write the things you love writing, and then you'll end up having a stack of books like this with your name on them, and it's a really cool feeling. I call this the brick. I love my brick. Do you like cheese? Yes. What's your favorite genre? To write? To read? I don't know. I'm still looking. I love fantasy, just like as a genre as a whole, fantasy. I love princesses and princes and knights and dragons and being able to have fantastical elements in your story. I love not being conformed to the natural world. I love being able to just make a world, and however things go in that world, the story can write itself, and that's in all types of media. Romance is a number 1 though. I need romance in my stories or I'm just not going to enjoy it that much. And for the longest time I've said, but I don't want romance on its own because it's boring. But I think I'm starting to disagree with that. I think I'm just not reading the right stories. And I'm probably biased because I'm writing a romance story now. But I just want substance. I don't necessarily care what it is. I'm more toward dystopian, fantasy, romance, that lane of genre. But I just want substance in a story. I want a good story. I want something heartfelt. I want something emotional. And I want something that aligns with my personal preferences as a reader/writer. But that's why I write my own stories. What type of songs do you listen to when coming up with story ideas, if you do listen to songs? I do listen to songs, not always, but I've discovered songs with lyrics distract me, unless it's a very specific type of music, but that's a whole nother story. But I have actually created multiple writing and reading playlists for myself, depending on the mood of my story. So if I'm writing a intense fight scene, for example, I will put on, quote, powerful instrumental music, or something like that. I listen to a lot of Two Steps from Hell. They are an orchestral group that does a lot of kind of like movie score sounding songs. Great when I'm writing because it kind of just blurs into the background and I just kind of start going, and it's really fun, to be completely honest with you. I also have genre specific music I'll listen to for inspiration specifically, but I won't listen while I'm writing because, like I said, it distracts me. But I'm guilty. On Spotify, I have playlists for individual characters, individual couples, the whole story, the kingdom in the story, the castle in the story. I have a lot of playlists. Some of them are like really emotional, tender music. Some of them are soft, romantic music. Some of it is like heart-wrenching tear-jerkers. I'll mix in a whole bunch of stuff. I will basically listen to songs that remind me of the characters, and as soon as that happens, I throw it in the playlist. And then sometimes I'll organize the playlist based on the chronology of the story. It's like an entire side hobby that I actually have, and it ties right into writing. But then again, I also think I will find any side hobbies that relate to what I'm writing. I did sort of touch upon this earlier, but what type of media has influenced your writing style? I think I've always sort of had my own style, but the inspiration does come from all over the place, particularly movies. I've found that if I watch a movie in the genre that I'm trying to write in, it will make me want to go work on my own. Even, for example, if I watch a movie where there's knights and they're speaking with that kind of old English accent, it makes me want to go work on my stories where they speak that way. And again, there's things like music. There's also the ability to draw your characters. That's always really fun while listening to the music that is in the playlist that you made for them. But I think my style specifically is always something that I have just naturally had and developed over the years. And this is exciting, but this is a question from Leslie. She's back from my last video, and I want to say thank you for sticking around for this long. It's awesome to have you here. This next set of questions is from my good friend, Leslie. Leslie, I know you're probably watching this, so thank you. And she's always asking the most personal questions. Like, they don't mean to be, but you're calling me out, and you don't even know it. Do you have a set schedule for your writing process, or at least one that allows you to progress regardless of perfection? No, but I should. I don't know if this was intentional, but Leslie is referencing the video that I most recently posted about what it means to me to be a writer, the fact that I felt like I used to be a writer and am no longer, although I am an author. Again, watch that video if you're curious. But the truth, sometimes what feels like the hard truth, is that I am a writer. I am a writer who sometimes doesn't write. It is my career. It is my chosen dream career. Alas, I do not do it. Why? Ideally, I would have a writing schedule. I would either wake up in the morning, get out my laptop and start writing, more like I used to, or get into bed at night and start writing, like I used to. Or magically throughout the day when inspiration hits, maybe have a couple hours set aside to just try to do some brainstorming, get words on a page, because ultimately the best way to combat anything else, including perfection, is to just write. Do I do that? No. As I did mention though, this is something that I'm trying to actively work on. I'm trying to sit myself down and enjoy the writing process like I used to. And it shouldn't feel like I need to set a schedule, but if there is that time set where you are telling yourself, this is the time that I write, and you're developing a good habit of it. Maybe particularly what's been working for me is not about the time, but the amount of writing. Like, for example, I went to a class where they prescribed us 10 sentences a day, and 10 sentences a day keeps the writer's block away. But if you just keep yourself putting down new information, putting down new words, you will eventually get past what I'll call the hard part of writing, and you'll get back into a part where you just want to keep writing. And when you have those flow moments, it helps the entire process. Advice to you, am I going to keep it myself? To be determined. Keep sitting down, keep writing, don't worry about what anyone else is saying, just write for yourself. Write for yourself, don't worry about the rest. It'll all come naturally if you just keep writing. So those were all of the questions that I was given, and a stack of books to show for it. I had so much fun with this Q&A. I'm blown away by the depth of the questions that you guys asked and the really fun ones that were thrown in there. I appreciate it immensely, and I thank you for watching all this way into the video. I hope you'll stick around to see when Broken Mirrors is very soon released. As a thank you for watching this far, I will show you, along with all of these, I also have things like this, which this is the first draft of Broken Mirrors. There are 100 scraps of paper stuck into this book, which will eventually be turned into a draft that will hopefully soon be arriving. Because finally, with this book, I am past the editing phase, past the writing phase, and on to hopefully what are the last bits of formatting before it is one of these sitting in my pile before you. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and like I said, I hope you'll stick around. Feel free to subscribe or follow my Instagram if you're interested in more writing related content and to see when you can ask questions for my next Q&A. I also know that upon posting this, Christmas will be very fast approaching, so I just want to take a minute to remind all of you that there is a Lord and Savior in Jesus Christ out there who loves you very much and would love to get to know you better, because he's always waiting for you. It's just about if you want to call out to him. God sent his only son to die on the cross so that we will be able to spend eternity by his side, forgiving the sins that we commit every single day, every single moment. He loves us, and all he's asking is for us to get to know him better, believe in our hearts that he was raised from the dead, and be saved. I invite all of you to remember him this Christmas season. Check out my books by going to bookstoread.com/Angelina Scriptor or asking your local library, bookstore, wherever you find your books. You can always ask about them or check if they're on your favorite audiobook or ebook service. They should be available. Thank you so much and have a very Merry Christmas. See y'all in the future. Scriptor out.